In a small apartment in Warsaw, Poland in 1867, a special baby girl was born. Her name was Maria Sklodowska, but the world would later know her as Marie Curie. Growing up in a family that valued education, young Maria showed an incredible talent for learning from her earliest days. Life wasn't easy for Maria and her four siblings. Their father was a teacher who struggled to support the family, and their mother worked as a school principal until illness forced her to stop.
Você já parou para pensar que enquanto escuta essa história poderia estar entendendo cada palavra em inglês de forma natural, sem precisar ir ficar lendo essa legenda que está na tela? Isso não acontece com você pelo simples motivo de que você não recebe feedback diário e nem pratica seu inglês. Por esse motivo, nós criamos o CAS, um super professor de inglês de inteligência artificial que você usa no seu próprio WhatsApp. Mas ele não é uma simples IA, é um super professor particular que você tem acesso 24 horas por dia, onde ele te ensina, corrige seus erros e ainda simula conversas reais por áudio e texto, e ainda se adapta ao seu ritmo. Tudo isso sem sair do app que você já usa o tempo todo. E tem mais, essa IA foi treinada com cérebros de professores renomados, então você vai aprender com a melhor didática possível. Então se você já tentou de tudo e ainda não viu resultados, o CAS vai ser a virada de chave que você precisa. O link está na descrição.
Despite these challenges, their parents made sure all their children understood the importance of education. Maria was different from other children her age. While they played with toys, she was fascinated by her father's scientific instruments. She would spend hours looking at the cases of laboratory equipment that her father brought home from the school where he taught physics and mathematics. Her curious mind wanted to understand how everything worked. At school, Maria amazed her teachers. She could memorize long texts easily and had a special gift for mathematics and physics. She would often wake up early to study before classes began, eager to learn more. By the age of 15, she was at the top of her class, known for her remarkable memory and dedication to learning. However, being a girl in Poland during the late 1800s meant facing many obstacles. The Russian authorities, who controlled Poland at that time, made it difficult for Polish people to get an education, especially girls. Women weren't allowed to attend university in Poland, but Maria refused to let these barriers stop her from pursuing her dreams. She and her sister Bronisława made a plan. They would take turns working as governesses to help pay for each other's education abroad. This meant leaving their family and working long hours teaching other people's children. It wasn't an easy choice, but Maria knew it was the only way to achieve her goal of becoming a scientist. For years, Maria worked as a governess, teaching children during the day and studying on her own at night. She never gave up on her dream of getting a proper education. She saved every bit of money she could, living simply and spending almost nothing on herself. All the while, she kept reading and learning, preparing herself for the day when she could finally go to university. This determination and love for learning would set the stage for an extraordinary journey that would change not only her life, but the course of scientific history. Maria Sklodowska was about to become Marie Curie, and her greatest adventures were just beginning. With her savings in hand and hope in her heart, Maria boarded a train to Paris in 1891. The journey was long, but her excitement about studying at the Sorbonne, one of Europe's most prestigious universities, made every mile worth it. She carried just a few belongings, some books, and big dreams. Life in Paris was very different from Warsaw. The streets were busy, people spoke quickly in French, and everything was more expensive than she had expected. Maria, who now called herself Marie, to fit into French society, lived in a tiny attic room. It was cold in winter and hot in summer, but it was close to the university, and that was all that mattered to her. Money was always tight. Marie lived on bread, butter, and tea, sometimes forgetting to eat while studying. She would wrap herself in all the clothes she owned to stay warm during the cold nights, as she couldn't afford heating. But none of these hardships could stop her from pursuing her studies. At the Sorbonne, Marie's dedication impressed everyone. She woke up early each day, walked to the university, and spent long hours in lectures and laboratories. While other students complained about the difficult classes, Marie excelled in both physics and mathematics. She was often the first to arrive at the library and the last to leave. Learning in a foreign language wasn't easy, but Marie was determined to succeed. She spent extra hours practicing her French and taking detailed notes. Her hard work paid off. She finished first in her class in physics and second in mathematics. This was an extraordinary achievement for any student, let alone a foreign woman in a male-dominated field. The professors noticed her exceptional abilities. They were amazed by her focus and understanding of complex scientific concepts. One professor even suggested that she should continue her research in physics after graduation. This encouragement meant everything to Marie, who had fought so hard for the chance to study. Despite her success, Marie remained humble. She wrote letters home to her family in Poland, sharing her achievements, but also expressing how much she missed them. She never forgot her roots or the struggle that brought her to Paris. Each success made her more determined to prove that women could excel in science. In the spring of 1894, Marie's life changed forever when she met Pierre Curie. A mutual friend introduced them, thinking they might be interested in each other's scientific work. Pierre was already a well-known physicist, studying crystals and magnetism in his laboratory. Their first meeting was more than just a casual introduction. They quickly discovered they shared the same passion for science and similar views about life. Pierre was different from other scientists Marie had met. He wasn't interested in fame or money. Like her, he cared only about discovering new things and understanding how the world worked. "Science is like nature," Pierre told Marie during one of their early conversations. "It's beautiful and mysterious." Marie felt exactly the same way. They would spend hours discussing physics, sharing ideas, and talking about their dreams for the future. Soon, their scientific partnership grew into something more. At first, Marie wasn't sure about staying in France. She planned to return to Poland to teach and help her country. But Pierre convinced her that together they could do important scientific work. "It would be a shame to separate," he said. "Think of all the discoveries we could make as a team." They married in July 1895 in a simple ceremony. They didn't want expensive rings or fancy clothes. Instead, they bought bicycles with their wedding money so they could take trips to the countryside. Their honeymoon was spent riding through the beautiful French landscapes, talking about science and their future plans. The Curies were not a typical couple. Their small apartment was plain, with just the basic furniture. They didn't care about fancy dinner parties or social events. What made them happy was working together in the laboratory. They even wrote about their discoveries in their diary instead of personal matters. Their marriage was a true partnership, both in life and in science. Pierre respected Marie's intelligence and treated her as an equal, something rare for that time. They supported each other's work and shared both successes and failures. Together, they were about to make discoveries that would change science forever. In 1896, Marie and Pierre began their most important work together. Marie was fascinated by recent discoveries about uranium rays, mysterious energy that seemed to come from uranium minerals. She decided to study these rays for her doctoral research, and Pierre joined her in this exciting investigation. Their laboratory was far from perfect. It was actually an old shed with a leaky roof and uneven floor. In winter, it was terribly cold, and in summer, unbearably hot. But Marie and Pierre didn't mind these conditions. They were too excited about their research to complain about their workspace. Working long hours, Marie made an important discovery. She found that the rays came from the uranium atoms themselves, not from a chemical reaction. This was revolutionary. She called this process radioactivity, a term we still use today. But this was just the beginning of their amazing discoveries. Marie tested many different minerals in their laboratory. She noticed that some uranium ores were more radioactive than pure uranium. This didn't make sense. unless these ores contained something new, something unknown to science. This observation led to an exciting hunt for new elements. The Curies worked tirelessly. They processed tons of heavy black uranium ore, boiling huge pots of mineral over a stove in their shed. It was exhausting work, but they were driven by the excitement of discovery. After months of effort, they found not one, but two new elements. They named the first element polonium, in honor of Marie's homeland, Poland. The second they called radium, because it gave off strong radiation. These discoveries were amazing, but getting proof was even harder. It took 4 more years of difficult work to isolate enough pure radium to prove its existence to other scientists. During this time, strange things happened in their laboratory. The radioactive materials they worked with made objects glow in the dark. They noticed that the radiation could burn skin and make air conduct electricity. They didn't know it then, but these mysterious properties would later lead to important medical treatments and new understanding of atomic energy. In 1903, everything changed for Marie and Pierre. The scientific world finally recognized their groundbreaking work on radioactivity. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences decided to award the Nobel Prize in Physics for that year. This was huge news, but it almost didn't include Marie. At first, only Pierre and Henri Becquerel were nominated for the prize. Pierre heard about this and did something unusual. He wrote to the committee. He explained that the discoveries were as much Marie's work as his own. He insisted that she deserved recognition too. This was rare at a time when women's scientific work often went unnoticed. The committee listened. They awarded the Nobel Prize to all 3 scientists, Marie and Pierre Curie and Henri Becquerel. This made Marie the first woman in history to win a Nobel Prize. When the news reached Paris, reporters rushed to interview the Curies. They found them in their usual place, their laboratory, working as if nothing had changed. Marie didn't enjoy all the attention. She was shy and preferred working to giving speeches. When reporters asked about her success, she would talk about the science instead of herself. She said, "In science, we must be interested in things, not in ourselves." The prize money helped the Curies buy better equipment and hire an assistant for their laboratory. But they kept living simply. They didn't buy expensive things or move to a bigger house. Marie even kept wearing her old clothes. For her, the real value of the prize was that it showed women could succeed in science. The Nobel Prize changed how people saw women in science. Young women from many countries wrote to Marie, saying she inspired them to study science. Universities started to think more seriously about accepting female students. Marie had opened a door that would never close again. This recognition brought new responsibilities, too. Marie and Pierre were invited to give lectures all over Europe. Though they didn't like leaving their research, they knew it was important to share their discoveries with other scientists. They were no longer just scientists, they were role models for researchers everywhere. In April 1906, tragedy struck. Pierre Curie died in a terrible accident in the busy streets of Paris. He was crossing the street in heavy rain when a horse-drawn cart ran over him. Marie was devastated. She had lost not only her husband, but also her closest scientific partner. She wrote in her diary, "I am crushed by what has happened to me. The hope of doing useful work has disappeared." For weeks, Marie could barely enter their laboratory. Everything there reminded her of Pierre. But she knew she had to continue their research, not just for science, but also for their 2 young daughters. She took over Pierre's position at the Sorbonne, becoming the first woman professor at the university. On her first day of teaching, she began her lecture exactly where Pierre had left off. Despite her deep sadness, Marie threw herself into her work with even more determination. She focused on isolating pure radium, a goal she and Pierre had shared. Her dedication led to another historic moment. In 1911, she won a second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry, for discovering radium and polonium, and for her success in isolating pure radium. This second Nobel Prize was extraordinary. Marie became the first person ever to win Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences. She won this award entirely on her own, proving that a woman could succeed in science independently. During her acceptance speech, she honored Pierre's memory, saying he would have been proud of their work's continued importance. However, this period wasn't just about scientific success. Some people criticized Marie because she was a foreigner and a woman. There were unkind rumors about her personal life. But Marie didn't let these attacks stop her. She said, "Life is not easy for any of us, but what of that? We must have perseverance, and above all, confidence in ourselves." Marie used her second Nobel Prize money to continue her research and help others. She didn't patent the process for isolating radium, believing that scientific discoveries should benefit everyone. She also trained many young scientists, especially women, showing them that with hard work and dedication, they could overcome any obstacle. The impact of Marie Curie's work continues to this day. Her research on radioactivity helped create new cancer treatments and X-ray machines. During World War I, she developed mobile X-ray units and trained women to operate them, saving many soldiers' lives. She even drove these units to the front lines herself. Marie founded the Radium Institute in Paris, which became a leading center for the study of radioactivity. Scientists from all over the world came to learn and work there. One of them was Marie's own daughter, Irene, who later won a Nobel Prize herself, continuing her mother's legacy. Sadly, Marie didn't know that the radioactive materials she worked with were dangerous to her health. She carried test tubes of radium in her pockets and stored them in her desk drawer, admiring their beautiful blue-green light. Her research notes from the 1890s are still radioactive today. Visitors to the library must wear protective clothing to read them. Marie Curie died in 1934 from an illness caused by her long exposure to radiation. But her scientific work had already changed the world. She showed that radioactivity could be used to help people, especially in medicine. Today, millions of cancer patients receive treatments that exist because of her discoveries. She broke down barriers for women in science. Before Marie, many people thought women couldn't be great scientists. She proved them wrong, not once, but twice. Today, when girls dream of becoming scientists, they can look to Marie Curie as proof that it's possible. Marie Curie's life teaches us important lessons about determination, curiosity, and courage. She faced many obstacles, poverty, prejudice, personal tragedy, but never gave up. She chose a difficult path and stayed true to her passion for science, making discoveries that still help people today. Perhaps Marie's greatest legacy is her example of dedication to science for the good of humanity. She wasn't interested in becoming rich or famous. She wanted her work to help people and advance scientific knowledge. As she once said, "Humanity needs practical men who get the most out of their work, and, without forgetting the general good, safeguard their own interests. But humanity also needs dreamers, for whom the unselfish following of a purpose is so imperative that it becomes impossible for them to devote their care to their own material profit."
Se você gostou desse vídeo, não se esqueça de se inscrever no canal. E também dá uma conferida lá no cast que está aqui na descrição desse vídeo para você aprender inglês mais rápido. Até a próxima!